Good morning, YouTube. Today is Sunday, which means that I now have less than a week before Brighton Comic Con, which is happening on Saturday, the 14th of June. This convention is actually run by the same organisers, Creed Conventions, that organise Bournemouth Comic Con. So there is a chance it'll be similar to that event. And for anyone that watched that vlog, you'll know that I really love that event, and it actually turned out to be a really busy, popular show. Saying that, I'm not completely sure whether or not Brighton Comic Con will live up to that, just because I think with these smaller conventions, there are so many other factors that can affect how many people turn up on the day, how busy the event is. And that's basically the main thing I'm concerned about, because I feel like if there are enough people there, I will do well. Other than that, I'm not too worried.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Throughout this vlog, as I'm preparing for this convention, I think I'm going to be paying a specific attention to things like expenses and also organization, because I really want to start becoming smoother and more confident and more prepared for these conventions. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, I feel like I've been chit-chatting at you for too long and I need to get on and do some stuff. So let's move on to the rest of the vlog. Bye! I'm feeling incredibly frazzled. It's like 28 degrees today or something ridiculous. And it's so stuffy in here. But I'm making good progress, I think, with all of the last minute things I need to do today. I haven't been filming that much because I'm kind of rushing to get everything done. But before I go on to pack all my stuff up, I just wanted to show some of the improvements that I've made to my signage, I think, and some of the little display things that I'm going to be trying out this time. So I'm going to turn the camera around and just show you some of my stuff. Okay, so normally I do like to do a full test display of my table before a convention, but to be honest, I don't think I needed to do one for this show because I already have a good idea of what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something very similar to what I did for Bournemouth Comic Con. And I just kind of didn't have time to do all of that. I will definitely do that for my next convention, but I didn't really have time this time. So this is kind of like my attempt at seeing how things will look a little bit, specifically my prints, because I have been making some changes to some of my signs. So I have a load more special deals this time than I did at my last convention. I wanted those to kind of be more visual than just on like their own separate special deals board where they're easy for people to miss. So I did make these extra special deals specific signs that I'm going to put up like near to whatever product they apply to, and hopefully they might attract people to like buy a little bit more, and yeah, hopefully they'll be successful, but we'll see. I have noticed like a lot of convention artists seem to do a lot of special deals, and I only had a couple previously, so I'm going to see if these help with my sales. I also did these like few little extra ones, like to put next to the t-shirts that you can try them on, or that you can get envelopes with the postcards. I don't know whether or not I'll have space for stuff like this, just because I don't want it to get too cluttered on my stand. But also my price list here, I did change some of my prices, but after my spreadsheet of doom showed me that I was probably underpricing some things. But instead of printing out a whole new price list, I basically like just got this white stickers and I stuck them over the price it changed and just wrote and tried to make it look as similar as the handwriting before as possible, because I don't want it to look really scruffy. But I think that worked out for now, and probably next time I will just reprint that if I need to, but maybe I won't. And then yeah, onto the print display. This is just an example of how I often display my different print sizes. So the smaller square prints over here, same as usual, I use this slanted dish rack from IKEA. It's from Amazon, this one. I'll try and link all of this stuff below in case people are interested. And I really like this because obviously the fact that it's slanted means you can see way more of the prints than if it was just flat. I do find it's better if you stagger the placement of the prints though. So I only have one every other like slot, I guess. You can put them every slot, and like honestly I would love to, because I have so many different designs now for these, but you do see like you get a much better visual when you just have them staggered. So if you have fewer prints, I definitely recommend doing that. Then there's my mini prints. I have been showing my mini prints in this little box that I thrifted for the last couple of events now, and at first I was like, nobody is even going to notice them because the box covers up quite a lot of the print, but people do always manage to find them and look through them, and they do pretty well. This is my first time offering a special deal on them, so I have just added that to my sign. Normally all my prize signs were just this like heart shape, but I did this kind of combo sign where it includes the sign for the individual item and the special deal price. I've also been using these clippy like shop display things. I'll link them as well. They are amazing. I love them. I was trying to use tape and Velcro and stuff to stick up on my prices before, and that was just so messy. But yeah, these things are great. You can also angle them however you want, and they provide like elevation from the base, and yeah, just love them. And this time I've had the idea to basically use this little wire. I actually don't have words at the moment, I'm so flustered. But yeah, this little wire tray, I'm gonna use in front of it, I think, so that there's just a bit more visual variety for those mini prints, because they are quite obscured in that little box. Then my large prints over here. I have never used this basket before to display. I used to display them in one of the green foldable crates. Actually, I have one here. So I used to display them in a crate like this, which is a similar size, but the bottom of it is very, very smooth, which meant the prints would slip around in there. Whereas this one has a more textured bottom on it. And also I've made this little contraption, which I'm going to try out of grey board, to see if I can like sort of separate the prints a bit more, to stop them just all flipping and sliding together, and maybe create like a bit more of like the effect that we have with the slanted dish rack, so that you can see more than one when they're sat in it. Don't know how successful it is right now, and I don't know how it's going to hold up, but it's something. I'm going to try it. Anyway, the same thing with the signs here. I think it looks really nice and clean, and hopefully maybe the special deals are going to pull some more people's interest. And then this basket I have used for postcards before, but this is my first time trying it out for prints. I think it's actually a really good size for the A4 ones. In the past, I've always ended up just kind of like throwing the A4 ones in with like these ones or something like that, and then they get lost and it's a bit messy. So I think giving them their own special little place to be will be a good thing. I'm just using a regular sign for these. There is an A4 deal. I don't know if I've printed out a sign for it, I'm not gonna lie. I probably should, but either way I will just be able to attach it to the top of this basket, so that should be fine. The other thing that I use to attach, aside from these plastic shop clip things, is I don't have one handy, but it's like wooden pegs. I'll show a video of them if I can. They are really great and they fit really nicely in with my theme, and I think they give like a really nice like rustic look to my stand, so I'll definitely be using those again for any signs that I don't want to use the shop clips for. Also, yeah, I'm going to take a mirror this time because I sell t-shirts. People often want to see what they look like, and I've never had a mirror before on my stand. Sometimes I offer to like hold their phone or hold my phone up so that they can see themselves, but I think actually having the option of a mirror will be great. I don't know exactly where on my stand I'll put it, but even if I can't put it on my stand, I can have it behind my stand and then offer it to people. So I figure it's worth bringing either way. The thing I've done that I didn't do the last couple of shows that I really should have done is print out a version of the price list just for us to look at, and also write down all of the special deals so that I can remember them. And also if I leave the stand, then my partner can refer to this if he needs to take transactions on his own, because it's a lot of stuff to remember for somebody that did not devise this in their brain. So hopefully this is also going to be really helpful for our organisation on the day as well. Next task is definitely going to be tackling all of this. This is basically pre-packing, and for the last couple of shows I've been very lazy and I basically have not really organised all of my bits and bobs before I go off to a show. I just kind of don't unpack that much, and then I just pick it all up and go on my way. So I actually want to go through all of this and kind of pack it in a way that makes sense. So like putting things that go together, like these are all the little bits and bobs that I need for packing up something that someone buys: my business cards, my discount flyers, and my branded stickers that I can pop on people's bags. So that's all together, which means I can just pop that behind the stand when we get there and not have to be rummaging through boxes looking for it. Likewise, I've got all of my price signs in one box. I have put all of my little accessories, I guess, from my grid cubes in this one bag because they was just all over the place before. You don't even want to know. Same with, again, packaging stuff, all in this tote bag. Words, tissue paper, extra envelopes, a random piece of foam board that can come out, bags, more bags. So I guess these ones could actually go together. That would make sense. So now that's kind of like all my customary bits in one place. I'm not going to be going through several bags to find them like I've had to do before. So yeah, that's kind of the process that I'm going through now, is just clustering things so that when I put them in my suitcase or in my bags, I will kind of not have to do too much digging on the other side. I'm in the process of carrying all my stuff down to my car, but I live on the 4th floor of my building with no lift, so it's such a workout.
Hello, it is Editing Brit here. I just felt like this was a good point for me to pop in and say that this show was really hectic and there was a lot going on behind the scenes that I don't properly explain until the review portion of the video. So if you want to know the real nitty gritty of what went down at this convention, I strongly advise you to stick around until the end review portion, where I'm going to be going over that in much more detail in terms of my experience and yeah, just the chaos of this convention. So for now, enjoy some little excerpts from my experience at the convention on the surface level, and then wait till the end to see what was going on underneath that surface, because it was pretty wild. So I'm here at the Amex, and I'm just currently in a queue waiting to actually get in to the loading bay area. It's like 10 to 8, so I'm kind of like hoping I'm going to get in there soon, because I know that I'm going to need like 2 hours to set up my table, I reckon. I mean, maybe I've got faster now, but the more time the better, to be honest. So yeah, fingers crossed we're gonna get let through soon. So the convention has started and it's quite busy, but I haven't really had anyone stopping at my table for any length of time. It is like technically an hour in to opening, but I only finished setting up my stand like 20 minutes ago, and a lot of other people were delayed because of the whole evacuation debacle. So it's kind of hard to say how it's going yet. People are stopping to look, but there hasn't really been
a lot of activity, but I think that is often the case for me in the first hour, so we'll just have to see how it goes. I also am super flustered because we got an extra table last minute, and literally like it was past 10 when they said, oh, do you want to have this table because this person's obviously not coming, and we were like, yeah, but I had like no time to think about how I was going to rearrange. I will show you what I've done. I've like got kind of an L shape. It doesn't look the best, but honestly I have so much product that I do sort of think I'm at the point now where it's good for me to have the extra space. Like maybe it's time to start thinking about getting backing tables or that kind of thing. I don't know, but I try my best with this. It's definitely not my best setup that I've ever done. Like I'm proud that I got it all together considering everything that was going on, the delays and all of that, and the extra table last minute. But yeah, definitely not my best work, and I'm gonna have to practice my table setup a lot more before Hypercar. This is the only food that they have. So
this is my favorite. This is perfect.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
It's so good.
Yeah, so lunchtime, I guess.
They're waking up.
Wait, what time did you say it was? 2 p.m.
About 2, yeah.
Yeah, so it's around 2 p.m. We've still got 2 hours left. Feels like things have picked up. Well, things are quite quiet right now, but sales have picked up over the last couple of hours from when I last checked in, which is a relief. It's not anything crazy, but it's okay. There's a few every so often, which is good. Charlie's been doing some great salesmanship while I haven't been at the table, and he's now convinced that he's the backbone of this operation, which maybe he is. We also ate donuts. I didn't film that because
And hot dogs.
yeah, I filmed the hot dogs though. They saw the hot dogs.
Okay. Yeah, that's been my favorite bit.
Yeah, I imagine it's just going to get quieter now for the rest of the day. I also took a walk around. It's like it's not very big at all, this convention. Yeah, it's pretty small, but saw some cute art, which I'll share.
I hope the hot dog bit makes me happy.
What? I think at least one part of the hot dog will make me itchy. Okay, I'll be back later. Goodbye. His tongue is like stuck out really funny. Picked up show the camera, marine mammals mystery charm from this really cute artist just down the way. I'll show you her store in a minute and I'll link her. But yeah, Charlie's gonna open it. Wait, Charlie, what do you want to get before you open it?
It's a marine mammal. Well,
Yeah, but look at
an
the back.
otter.
There's
Maybe
pictures of what you could get.
Oh wow! I mean, yeah.
Obviously the otter, right?
Obviously the otter, but they're all pretty cool.
Oh, it's a polar bear.
There's a polar bear.
That's still very cute.
It's still pretty cute. Let's put it on this one because it's the most secure. Woo! I like him.
Schools are now desolate and deserted, and there's not much happening. So yeah, it is like it's like 3:36 now, and it's like so dead in here. It's like basically no one in here. So I think all the exhibitors are starting to pack up. I will probably hang around a little bit because
I don't know, you never know when you're going to get someone to come back for a last minute sale, so I don't want to pack up just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is...
Darth Vader keeps walking past. I feel like Darth Vader might...
What, has Darth Vader been eyeing our bits?
I think... I can see him with a Cheeto cap.
Yeah. Maybe he'll come back. Yeah, just in case someone comes back, I'm going to hold on for a bit longer, but yeah, it's looking like we might be done here.
Hello, so I am finally sitting down to do my review of this convention and my experience, and also I'm going to go through my numbers with you and all of that good stuff. So yes, buckle up for this one. I have my notebook here because there's quite a lot to say, and I'm going to try really hard not to ramble through this because I definitely could. But we're going to keep it short and snappy and to the point. So let's not beat around the bush, because I just have to come out and say this is probably the most stressful event that I've ever done. And part of that is my fault, for sure. And part of that is the event's fault. I hate to say it. I don't want to be negative, but I feel like I'm going to be so negative in this review. But there'll be positives as well. It's not all negative, but there are negatives. I'm just getting out there because they're unavoidable. But it's not all negative, I promise you. I promise. Let's get into it. Let's get into what I thought. Let's get into some of my issues, and let's get into some of the things that I learned. So first of all, I think I was a bit naive when I booked this convention. I booked it quite a few months ago. I think I booked it actually after I did Bournemouth Comic Con because it's organised by the same people. And I thought, oh, Bournemouth Comic Con went really well. It might be worth booking another one. And I booked Brighton because I love Brighton first of all. And I thought it's like quite a vibey, arty place where there might be my audience, and there would probably be quite a lot of people that would be up for going to maybe a smaller convention, something more local. So I thought we'd give it a try. And also, living in London, I thought Brighton wasn't that far away, like in comparison to other places, which it isn't, but it's very different, like just going to Brighton for a day trip and going to exhibit at an artist alley or a convention. So I basically didn't account for the fact that I would have to get accommodation and pay for that the night before, in order to like avoid having to get up at like 4 a.m. to go and set up, which I guess would have been an option in theory, but I just thought that sounded a bit stressful. So I did actually end up booking accommodation for it, and maybe if I had factored that in to the costs, I wouldn't have been so quick to kind of like book this convention. Tables for the Creed conventions, artist alleys or exhibitor halls are really affordable. They're normally like 40 to 50 quid. Having to factor in the accommodation means that it is more of a gamble because your costs just are immediately more. That was my first mistake, I think, was not considering the fact that I would need to book accommodation. And that brings me on to the accommodation and the journey there on the Friday before the convention, which just honestly, I think it shaved years off my life in terms of how stressed I was. Let's start with the big glaring error that I made, which was that I left my card reader at home and my iPad. I had to pack everything up on my own. I normally have my partner to kind of like help me take everything down to the car, because you'll have seen in the video I live on the 4th floor and there's no lift, so it is just brutal, and it was like 30 degrees that day. So I think I just got so flustered taking all my stuff down that I completely forgot my tote bag, which had my most important stuff in it, obviously. And I realised it about an hour into the journey. I was driving and I was suddenly like, oh my god, I don't have my card reader. And because my partner was at a music festival in London and he was supposed to be joining me later, I knew that I needed to contact him basically to see if he could come back and pick it up before he came to meet me. But of course Siri wasn't responding to me at that time, and I was literally on the motorway, and I was just desperately looking for somewhere to stop so that I could contact him and be like, do not leave London, I need the card reader. And even worse than that, so the accommodation that I booked, I thought it was a hotel, but it was like more of a guest house, and they were being really like anal about when I arrived. And then I told them like hours before, and then they were like asking again, and it seemed like they really wanted me to be there like by a certain time. So it added to the stress, because I was like, I need to stop, but then I can't even stop because I'm going to be late for this guest house that is like desperate for me to arrive. Okay, point 2, that was my fault. Poor accommodation choice. So like I said, I thought it was a hotel, which I really wanted. I just wanted to go somewhere where it's like 24-hour check-in, like everything's there for you. You don't have to deal with people. There's no weirdness. There's no like Airbnb strangeness, you know. I won't get into the Airbnb thing because I've been burned so many times by like weird Airbnb rules or just strange apartments that are incredibly difficult to find and all of that. I just wanted somewhere that was like comfortable and easy, which this was half of those things. I chose like the worst location for someone that is going somewhere on business. It was like the center of Bournemouth, right on the seafront, where there's loads of bars and people are going out, and it's like super busy. And also, if I say Bournemouth, by the way, I'm sorry, because I've been talking about Bournemouth Comic Con and I've been talking about Brighton Comic Con, and I get muddled. So if I say Bournemouth, I mean Brighton, unless I mean Bournemouth, because I'm also talking about Bournemouth in this one. But anyway, the accommodation that I booked wasn't a hotel. First of all, it was a guest house, which is fine. But for some reason, I thought they had a car park because I paid for parking. I actually need to add that to my costs. I haven't put that in my costs, but I will. I paid for parking, and I assumed it was for a car park, but it was for on-street parking. So anyone that's been around in Brighton knows that it is notoriously hard to park there, especially in the centre of town. I was just driving around with my parking permit and absolutely nowhere to put my car, and yeah, I literally cried. I literally cried in my car. I called Charlie and I was like, I don't know where to park. And he like looked up a car park for me, and I started to go towards it. But luckily on my way there, I kind of got like a little bit further away from like the really busy bits, and I found somewhere to park. Also, by this point, it was thunderstorming with rain, as you will see in the vlog. Earlier that day, it had been like 30 degrees. So I just hopped in the car in like a t-shirt and shorts kind of vibe. And then by the time I got there, it was like lightning storm. So I had to walk back from where I'd parked my car, like getting drenched in the rain. And I was just sad. I was sad, and I was regretting. I had regrets, so many regrets. But anyway, I made it to the accommodation. The accommodation was fine once I made it in. I barely spent any time there because I got there quite late and I had to leave really early, which was just another reason why I should have just got accommodation near to the venue. So one piece of advice I would definitely give as a takeaway to all of that was that unless you're going to be staying somewhere for like days before and after the event that you're doing, and you actually are going to be able to experience the area, just go for convenience with your accommodation. Get somewhere that's really near to your venue. Get somewhere that's just going to be easy to park at, that's going to have a car park, that's going to be comfortable, and just be also probably go for somewhere quite cheap as well if you can, because all of this stuff just adds to your costs. And I think that I just lost my mind a bit when I booked like this quaint seafront guest house for my business trip. So we live and we learn. The next section I have just titled Set Up Hell. So I want to preface this by saying that the people that run this event are really lovely. Like, I just got the feeling they were really nice people. They were nice to be around. They were really sweet. But there was a lot of disorganization at this event from the beginning. You'll have seen in the vlog that I had to queue a little bit in my car to get into the actual venue at the beginning, which was like a little bit strange because we weren't sure what was happening. It was just like me and a few people sitting there for like 10 minutes waiting to get in. And then we eventually did get in, and the event organizers directed us to park and everything like that. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I have like 2 hours. That's going to be plenty of time to set up my display. I'm going to smash this. And they said specifically that we needed to sign in before we could start setting up, which I think that's just a common thing, right? So I went inside, started queuing to sign in, and I was in this queue for like half an hour, and it wasn't even a long queue. It was just taking ages for everyone to sign in, and a lot of the exhibitors started getting quite agitated because, they were thinking the same as me, like, oh, we need to be setting up our stands. It's like, we've been in this queue so long, we're really losing time. Everyone's wondering why it was taking so long. When I got to the front of the queue, the lady that was allocating everyone their tables was just like, I hope you have good eyesight because I can't read this map. And I was like, honey, why are you doing this job if you can't read it? But yeah, I guess she was having a really hard time like actually locating people's tables for them because the numbers were like printed so small on her map, and that's why it was taking so long. But it just seemed like so crazy that that's what was causing this massive hold up, but it was. Anyway, eventually got through that, started setting up my table, and lo and behold, an alarm starts blaring in the building, and there's literally like staff members running full speed through the halls, and then we're all getting told that we have to evacuate because there's been an incident. I don't know what the incident was. I don't even know if there was an incident, but we all had to get out, and this was when it was just kind of like, I'd gone from stressed to just being like, whatever, I think so many people feeling really confused and exasperated at this point because it felt like there was so many hiccups up until that point. Like, I hadn't even mentioned all of them, to be honest. Like, while we were setting up, there were people yelling that everybody had to move their cars, but then there were some people that had only just signed in because sign-in had taken so long, so they were delayed moving their cars, and it was just this whole knock-on effect that meant everything got delayed with setup, and it was kind of a mess. It all stood outside of the venue just waiting around, and we can see at this point, because it's basically opening time by now, there's like a whole crowd of people waiting to get into this thing. And like, in a way that was kind of good, because I was like, okay, well, there's a good turnout, there's people queuing for like early entry, and that could be a really good sign. But at the same time, I'm like also kind of pissing myself because I haven't finished setting up my table and there's already people queuing outside to enter. Anyway, eventually we all got let back in and I was able to finish my display, and I think they did delay people coming back in, which allowed us a bit more time, which was good. I mean, like, obviously it wasn't good in terms of like for the people that had to wait longer, and also like it's gonna shave off some of our like selling time, but yeah, it worked out in the end. We managed to get there, but it was pretty hairy, I won't lie. Also, as I said, I didn't love my display. It's definitely not my favorite one. It might even be my least favorite display that I think I've ever done. And I think you can feel that I was rushed. It wasn't terrible. Like, I had a lot of new signs that I do think were good, but yeah, in general I just felt like it wasn't my most well thought out display, and it was quite messy, and it was sort of like helped and hindered by the fact that I got that extra table last minute, because on the one hand my table was like so full and I was really struggling to find places to display specifically my t-shirts, but on the other, like, literally got given that table like after opening time. It was like right at the end of setup, which was already overrunning. So I kind of had to make a split decision to just like do that kind of weird corner display. I think I did kind of like need the space, and I guess it meant there was more visibility on my work, but it definitely felt like quite slapdash, and I just wasn't in love with that display, to be honest. Another thing that I do really need to talk about is the venue itself. This event took place in the Amex Stadium in Brighton. It's like outside of town, it's not in town, like often the way that a stadium is kind of just like not in the center of things. It was only a 10-minute drive outside of town, which was good. So it wasn't like miles away, but it was very much like in sort of like the countryside area. And obviously there was a good turnout. I would say that the event, to be honest, it felt like the event probably sold as many tickets as they could. But I didn't like the venue, if I'm going to be honest. When I first went in, I was like, oh, this isn't really a vibe. When I'd heard it was at a football stadium, I'd assumed it would be in like a function room or like a special occasion room, because I used to work at a football stadium for a bit, and I know that they have those for like special dinners and things. So I just thought, oh, there'll be some sort of like hall that we're using or a big room. But it was kind of like in the corridor that goes around the perimeter of the stadium. If you've ever been to a football stadium or a music show at a stadium, you'll know what I mean. It's like where you hang out to go to the toilet and get a drink and stuff, like in halftime or whatever, which is a really weird place to have an event like Comic Con. It's literally a corridor, and they'd, you know, tried their best to fit as many tables in there as possible, but it was just not really made for having a ton of people in it who are also trying to stop at stands and buy things, and also just like hang out and talk with their friends and cosplay or whatever. There wasn't really like an open area where people could just hang out, so it meant that like the only place people could really be was the aisles. There was like a very small section before the stage at one side, but it was just not enough for the amount of people that were in there. Like, I've written here accessibility in the room with us, because it was super overcrowded and the gaps between the tables was way too narrow. Like, people were literally having to like scrape themselves past my table to get through. There was many occasions where the crowd would literally be at a standstill. When I was trying to walk around, I had lots of moments where I just had to kind of like wait or squeeze through people because there was so little space to move in the venue. Anyone with a wheelchair basically took up the entire aisle, and it was incredibly difficult for them to get around. I don't think they considered accessibility anywhere near enough for this venue, and I do think that it affected sales because it was just really hard for people to actually stop and look at anything in busy periods because they would inevitably end up in someone's way. I will say that in general, it felt like the attendees were really disappointed with the event as well. Charlie mentioned that he'd heard multiple people going around saying, I can't believe we paid 25 quid for this. I think potentially the general entry ticket is cheaper than that, but I think maybe the early entry one was a £25 ticket. And I can't lie, I kind of agree. It wasn't a very big event. It was in quite a small space, and it was just so packed and kind of unpleasant to be in that I really didn't blame them for feeling like they had wasted their money. Don't even get me started on the food options or lack thereof, because there was like a cafe at one end of the hall that was quite close to us halfway through the day, and it looked like they had a lot of different things on offer because they had like signs behind the servers that said like sausage rolls, chicken pie, etc, etc. So I was like, I'll have 2 sausage rolls please, and the guy was just like, we're only serving hot dogs. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll have a hot dog. You know, I quite like hot dogs, but I just thought anyone with a dietary requirement is just not going to stand a chance. Only other food stall that they had was a donut stand. It was fine, but it's just, yeah, it was really lacking, I think, in terms of what they were offering to like, not just us, but like attendees who'd like, let's say, pay 25 quid, and then they get into this place and it's incredibly hot and stuffy, incredibly hard to walk around, and there's no real food on offer. A little bit disappointing, I would say. And like I said, although it had been thunderstorming the day before, we were back to like late 20s temperatures outside, and you can imagine in somewhere that's already super congested and basically just like a corridor, it got really stuffy. I think a lot of people were super sweaty in there, and there was a funk by the end. I was probably contributing to it. I got quite nervous and stressed during my setup, so no shade to anybody on the funk, but there was a funk, and it, you know, by the end it was pretty unpleasant. The toilets were adding to the funk. It was just, there were lots of smells that I didn't want to smell, and I was ready to leave by the end, I won't lie. Anyway, needless to say, all of this stuff did not exactly help my sales. I would say, like I mentioned, the congestion and the poor layout definitely didn't help me make as many sales as I did at something like Bournemouth Comic Con, which was much more spacious, and I had a much better table position there. People could easily see my stand and also just like have the room to come up and browse or look from afar, whereas the only way people could see my stand was if they were in this very, very narrow aisle between myself and the table in front of me, and most of the time when they were in that aisle they were just like fighting for their life to get through it. Also, I think the audience at an event like Brighton Comic Con, I do think it attracts some people who are my target audience, but a lot of people that go there are mostly interested in like getting autographs and getting things like resold toys and comic books and that kind of thing, as opposed to artists. I think that a lot of the artists at the event found it quite slow, and yeah, you could just notice from the kinds of stalls that were crowded that art was definitely not high on people's agenda at this event. So it's something to bear in mind, I think, for any artists who are looking to do a smaller local convention. Saying that, I think that most of us start with these conventions, so it's kind of unavoidable, but the crowd is often, yeah, just more like your average kind of like comic enthusiast or toy enthusiast, as opposed to someone that's looking for like independent artwork to buy, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to talk about some positives because I've been very neggy for this video and I feel bad about that. So let's think about some of the positive things that I got out of this event. First of all, it was a learning experience. Like everything is. This is only my 4th event that I've ever done, right? Let me think. 1, 2. This is only my 4th event that I've ever done. So it's always going to give me so much just out of the experience of it. Like I've learned a lot about accommodation. I've learned a lot about venues. I've learned a lot about audience, you know, all of those type of things. I've learned a lot about allowing yourself so much more time for setup. I'm going to say this every video, I'm sure, but yeah, I've learned that you should definitely get there even earlier than early to make sure that you don't get behind in setup, because anything can happen. So expect the unexpected is the main takeaway from this event, I would say. And I'm so grateful that I had that experience, and I learned that now at an event like this where the table was quite cheap, as opposed to one where I've splashed out a lot of cash to be there. Also, like I said, the people were nice. The staff were really nice despite their disorganization, and the public that were there were really nice. Like I think a lot of the time at these events the people are going to be nice. Like there's a nice community there. Like I love Comic Cons, I love the community vibe, you know. I've loved going as an attendee during the entirety of my teen years, and yeah, I always enjoy being in that atmosphere, and I love meeting artists at Comic Con too. So my mic died. Sorry, I'm gonna have to film this all as just a quick voiceover when I show you the actual numbers for everything, but I still thought it would be really good for you guys to see the numbers, so I'm just gonna take you through them quickly now. My office expenses were the table, the hotel, fuel, food, and parking, and they totaled up to £202.50. Like I mentioned before, the table is really affordable for this show, and it's quite easy to make back £50. So from that perspective, it's a good table fee, I would say, especially if you are local. But like I said, I wasn't local, which meant I also had to pay £100 for my accommodation, which wasn't ideal and obviously bumped up my costs a lot more. And that's why I wouldn't do this convention again. I mean, it's not the only reason, but I think that's the biggest reason. Like, I do think if you are an artist that's just starting out and you're local, you do have a reason to do this convention, because like I said, the table fee is quite low and you're not going to have anywhere near as many of these costs as me. So then my money in was £350.78 roughly, and that is okay. Like, it's not terrible earnings for a day, but it's nowhere near as much as I took for an event such as Bournemouth Comic Con, which was closer to £700 as an example. So then if we then do the maths and we take out the money out from the money in, we will get my profit, which is this number here, which was £151.28. However, I'm also trying to keep track of my expenses more. So if I take off about 30% for my expenses for the materials and the manufacturing that I do for my goods, then we will get down to closer to £105.90. Basically £100 profit for this day's work,
While I am really happy and grateful to have made any profit, I did find it quite underwhelming to only have this much profit from the event, just considering how much energy I put into getting there and being there. So for that reason, I was pretty disappointed with it, if I'm being completely honest. But like, I've still got to take my wins where I can, and I'm happy to have come away with loads of experience and also with, you know, a few pounds in my pocket. I also did note down some of my better sellers. Those were my Soot Sprite tea, my Carb Cat tea, my Tulip Ramyun print, my fried chicken print, and my Snacky Barrow stickers. They are always my best selling stickers, which makes me really happy because they are my original characters. So I'm going to be pushing those characters more at future events. The t-shirts definitely pull me through because they are one of my higher ticket items. So just selling a few of those will really help me with my profits. So yeah, I just know that I have to probably stock more sizes of those next time because I always run out of sizes really quickly. That is the basic takeaway money-wise. You can see that the show was fine, I would say, especially for only my 4th event. I think that just making a little bit of profit is still a positive, but we're aiming much higher than this in future. So we move and we'll see how much I can make next time round.
Okay, editing Brit again. I know that this video has been kind of negative for the most part, but I think it's always important to remember why I'm doing these conventions and why I still find conventions that don't always go completely to plan or aren't a complete success or don't make loads of profit really good experiences. And I actually reflected on this right at the beginning of my prep process, and I thought it would be nice to include that reflection here at the end, just to kind of like, I guess, end this video on a kind of more positive and hopeful note for why it's still really good to do conventions that don't always go completely to plan, especially when you're at the early stages of your business. So yeah, I'm gonna finish off with that, and I will see you next time. Bye.
I haven't been super het up about profit in the early stages of my business because I think with any business, it's going to take you a while to make a profit. Like, I know there's a lot of things out there on YouTube and other platforms, which is this whole thing of like, oh, get your first like 6-figure business paycheck in like a year or something like that. And if you can do that, then that's amazing. But that's kind of not normal. And I think that I am not surprised that my business isn't profitable yet and that I'm still having to work like a part-time job and all of that. I think that is fine. And hopefully it means that I'm building up to something that's going to be like have a stronger foundation and be like more long lasting. Like, I want to make sure that the business I'm building now has really strong building blocks, and it's something that I'm going to enjoy continuing to grow for like a really long time. So I don't mind taking my time about that, and I don't mind that maybe at the end of this I'm going to be like, oh, I didn't even make a profit from this event because of X, Y, and Z. Like, that is still okay for me because it's all growth right now. It's all experience and exposure. Every event I do teaches me so much, and it puts me in front of new people. It gets me more visibility. Yeah, so from that perspective, the profit is not the be all and end all. But at the same time, I want to start getting into good practices when it comes to actually thinking about the numbers a little bit more, because I am allergic to numbers most of the time, which is probably not going to be ideal with running a business, is it?